everyone. I'll be reading an article titled UN Chief, We Will Impose Global Governance, posted on Infowars, prisonplanet.com, Wednesday, December 16th, 2009. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has publicly admitted that the agenda behind the Copenhagen summit and the climate change fraud is the imposition of a global government and the end of national sovereignty. Speaking about the agenda to impose targets on CO2 emissions as well as a global tax on financial transactions and a direct tax on GDP, Ban Ki-moon told the LA Times in an interview, quote, "We will establish a global governance structure to monitor and manage the implementation of this." Quote, "We need to have a very strong, robust, binding political deal that will have an immediate operational effect. This is not going to be a political declaration. Just for the sake of declaration, it is going to be a binding political deal, which will lead to a legally binding treaty next year," he told the Times Bruce Wallace, adding that a formal treaty would be signed by mid-2010. Ki-moon has also hinted that the arrival of President Barack Obama could grasp victory from the jaws of defeat for the globalists, who up until now have looked like failing in their efforts to secure a multilateral agreement at the Copenhagen that includes China, India, and the United States. Could Obama roll in as the savior of Copenhagen in an 11th hour turnaround? The Secretary General has not been shy in proclaiming the unfolding agenda for a global dictatorship to override national parliaments. They just had, who was it, Prince Charles and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They just made a last-minute appearance, so I'm sure our Fuhrer Obama will make an appearance as well. In an October New York Times editorial entitled "We Can Do It," Ki-moon wrote that the efforts to impose restrictions on CO2 emissions, quote, "must include an equitable global governance structure." Fellow globalist and environmentalist David DeMeyer Rothschild also disclosed the agenda for global governance in a recent interview with Bloomberg News. Quote, "It's past the point of talking. We know historically that the global governance sort of agenda to these issues is very hard to with all the best intentions, it's very hard to actually activate," Rothschilds noted. It's a pretty important quote that he gave, because it kind of goes in line with what Ban Ki-moon was saying up here about how they plan to, have it going up and running. He said he used the word operational. They plan on having the global government operational, within the next year or two. So they're basically saying that the global government, like I have heard Alex Jones mention this or use this analogy before, where it's like a beast, like a creature it was at its embryonic stages as of World War II when they set up United Nations and all the other global government bodies. That it was in its embryonic stages, and that just recently, within the past, of course, you got NATO and NAFTA and GATT and all those things, of course, that go into play. But just recently, within the past year or 2 years, this global government is no longer embryonic, but it has legs, and it's just starting to stand up. And it's a little dizzy, it's a little confused, and it's not fully functional yet, but it is out of that embryonic stage. It's no longer a theory. They want to have this global government actually functioning, and it's not functioning yet, and that's what all of us are trying to do when we talk about global government. We're not trying to prove a conspiracy theory. There is no more, it's not so much a theory as it is. It's in place right now. The debate needs to become not whether a global government or close, near global government exists, but whether we want it. And that's what I try to tell everybody is get past the whole argument whether it exists. Just people that want to deny that global government or something that's similar to a global governmental body structure is set up. If they want to deny that, then just don't waste your time. Tell them to go do their homework and their research, and don't waste your time. Tell them that, and just ask them when you want to have an intelligent, mature debate about something that does exist, factual, things, and tell them to come back, and then you can have a nice little debate on whether you actually want it or not, because that's what the debate is really about. But without ranting on any further, just to finish this up, new EU President Herman Van Rompuy said earlier this month that the Copenhagen conference was, quote, the first step towards the global management of our planet. Um, and I have that clip as well posted in my channel, so you can check that one out. It's a whole speech that was given by him. Similarly, Al Gore, in a speech earlier this month, that attempts to regulate CO2 emissions would be driven through, quote, global governance and global agreements. 10 years ago, people who warned about a coming New World Order bossed by a global government were called paranoid conspiracy theorists. Is the march towards a one-world government still conspiracy theory, even as its architects openly announce its implementation? So I like how they, Prison Planet finished this article up, but, yep. And I just wanted to flip to this story quickly. I'm not going to read the entire thing. Post a link to it so you can check it out. But the title is Obama's Push for Copenhagen Deal Could Violate Constitution, critics say. This was posted on foxnews.com. I'll just read the intro and a couple paragraphs. But President Obama's mission to save the planet from global warming could end up trampling on the U.S. Constitution, critics say. When Obama arrives in Copenhagen Friday, he is hoping to cut a deal on new global warming agreement. Even though the conference is not likely to produce a legally binding deal, critics say if the president signs an international climate treaty pledging reductions in carbon emissions, he will violate the Constitution. And as most of the savvy listeners that are probably reading this right now know, the EPA recently declared CO2, carbon dioxide, a deadly toxin, poisonous greenhouse gas. So that kind of is like his way of saying, well, even if we don't have the treaty signed, we're still going to try to commit to this. But even that, we don't know if they can actually follow through with the whole CO2 reduction based on it being declared a poisonous gas. So. President Obama cannot bind the American people to job-killing international agreements on climate change without the advice and consent of the United States Senate, former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich wrote Wednesday as a conservative website's host. I'm not really all about Newt Gingrich, and I think he's kind of a tool bag puppet. So I don't know. You guys can check this story out if you want. Like I said, right down here it says last week on the day the climate summit opened in Denmark, the EPA formally declared that greenhouse gases, included carbon dioxide, are in danger to human health, a finding that could pave the way for massive new regulations under the Clean Air Act for cars, power plants, crude oil refineries, and chemical plants. While the administration officials have said they would prefer Congress to take action on regulating greenhouse gases, Republicans fear the EPA, buoyed by its latest finding, is prepared to act unilaterally. So, saying here, similarly, he can't bypass the people's representatives in Congress by having the EPA pursue the same goals through the bureaucratic totalitarianism. So, I just thought I'd shoot to this article really quick. But thanks for checking this out.